Good morning, students. जैसे yesterday also I had spoken about it, that there'll be two courses for DSC um, in this year of yours. First will be experimental psychology and another was stress management course. So we'll be starting with experimental psychology. And this experimental psychology uh, course is more or less the similar to what you have done in foundation of psychology course in first year. And as I have told you yesterday also, that the book which was there for first year, first year course foundation of psychology, that is Dr. Shashi Jain, that will be used for this course also. And additional information regarding book I can put in your WhatsApp group also if you need, but yesterday I had spoken about it perhaps. Then the first unit of experimental psychology belongs to sensation. So we'll be starting with sensation. What is sensation? In foundation of course psychology, uh, you have studied about perception. So perception is the process which comes after sensation. Okay, in perception, we have talked about how we understand various events around us, various stimuli around us. Um that was about the understanding part. But before that perception, there is some another mental process which takes place, which is known as sensation, which is a primary process. Without sensation, we'll not be able to perceive anything. So the first basic information which we get from our environment through our sense organs is called sensation. So that is why it is known as elementary form of mental activity. So sensation, what is sensation? Sensation is the elementary form of mental activity. It arises when a particular sense organ is stimulated. Whenever our sense organ is stimulated, like as you all know, we have 5 sense organs in the form of eye, ear, nose, tongue, and skin. So whenever there is some stimulus the outside in the environment, that uh, stimulates or that excites our sense organ, and the first impression regarding that stimulus which we get in our brain is sensation. The first experience, the first feeling of something going around us is sensation. uh, the stimuli around us, they act upon the sense organs, and this impression is conducted by sensory nerves to sensory centers in the brain. There it is experienced as sensation. Whenever our sense organs are excited or affected by some outside stimuli, then that sense organ has specific receptors depending upon what it is, what kind of stimuli is being received, and what is the nature of sense organ, whether it is eye or ear. Depending upon that, it is specialized to carry particular sensation through sensory nerves. Okay, all the sense organs, they have sensory receptors which are connected to the brain through sensory nerves. You must have studied neurons or the building blocks of our nervous system in your previous classes, maybe in class 10 or 12. So you might be knowing the structure of neuron, कि किस तरह से न्यूरॉन जो होता है वो दिखाई देता है. एंड न्यूरॉन्स, दे आर कनेक्टेड टू ईच अदर, दे फॉर्म nerves are further of two types, sensory and motor nerves. So sensory nerves are those which carry the impulse or the information to the brain, and motor nerves are those which carry the message from the brain back to our um, body muscles and glands of the body. So here we'll stick to the sensation part. So these sense organs, they carry the uh, reception of that stimulus through sensory nerve to the brain centers. There are different specific brain centers for sense of hearing, sense of sight, sense of smell, sense of touch, pressure, which is which is received by our skin. So there are various sensory areas in the brain, and accordingly, the brain interprets that stimulus, then decides what is going on around us and what is needed to be done. That is, of course, when we perceive that sensation. So the process which comes before perception is sensation. If there is no sensation, there will be no perception. For any perception to take place, we need to have sensation. Then only we are able to act properly according to the demands of the environment, according to the situation of the environment. So as we all know, there are 5 sense organs in our body through which we come in contact with physical and social world. So these are 5 organs, sense organs of the body, which connect us to the physical and the social world around us. That is eye for visual sensation, ear for auditory sensation, nose for olfactory sensation, tongue for gustatory or taste sensation, and skin, which is for pain, pressure, temperature, such kind of sensations. Each sense organ is highly specialized receiver whose function is to receive and transmit a particular kind of stimulus. As I've already told, that each sense organ is capable of receiving and transmitting a particular kind of stimulus. It has receptor cells which are specialized, highly specialized to transmit a particular kind of stimulus. After the stimulus is received in the sense organ, it is transmitted through the nervous system to the brain, where it is coded and categorized. When a sense organ is stimulated, it receives the stimulation. It is transmitted to the brain through nervous system, through sensory nerves, which are a part of nervous system, and when it reaches the brain, it is coded and categorized. Okay, then the brain codes it, or it tells whether it is sensation of sound, sensation of vision, sensation of taste, and that categorization of sensation takes place in brain. Brain tells us what kind of sensation it is. Brain is the headquarter and decision maker. Finally, whatever we experience through our sense organs, brain is the headquarter to make some decision regarding that, which tells about the sensation, what kind of sensation we have experienced. So if we talk about it diagrammatically, a stimulus, which can be there in form of any physical energy outside, it affects our sensory organ or receptors, and then a kind of neural impulse is generated, which is through the sensory nerves, which is transferred to brain, where we experience sensation regarding that stimulus. Okay, so this is how the process of sensation takes place. Then there's another term which is associated with sensation, which is transduction. Now, what is this transduction? Transduction is the process by which sensory organ transforms mechanical, chemical, or light energy into a neural firing. Now, transduction is a process which is very important for the communication of that stimulus to the brain, because the energy which is there in the stimulus, that is uh, basically mechanical or chemical or light energy, but that has to be converted into electrochemical energy, which causes our neurons to fire. Which causes our neurons to generate nerve impulse, which is transmitted through the sensory nerves to the brain. So this whole process of transmitting the impact of stimulus through nerve impulse through sensory nerves to the brain is called transduction. Now, the study of sensation, it was started in 1838 by John Muller. Then experimental studies were started by Bell in 1911. Magendick and Wundt in 1874 differentiated sensation and perception, because there's very, very thin line between sensation and perception. Sensation turns into perception when it is given some meaning. But before that, when there's no meaning attached to the information which we are receiving from outside environment through our sense organs, through the nerve impulse generated in them, through the transmission of that nerve impulse to the brain via sensory nerves. When it is received in the brain, we just get a very basic idea of the stimulus without any proper interpretation of that stimulus. So that is sensation. When it is interpreted properly through the use of, as we already have discussed, perception in the last classes. So when there are meanings attached to it, our experiences, our knowledge attached to that sensation, then it becomes perception, and then we fully understand what is going around us. So there's very thin line between sensation and perception. Generally, these are intermingling processes, and we can't differentiate them much. We don't even realize that these are two different processes. So Magendick and Wundt differentiated sensation and perception. Now, as far as the definitions of sensation are concerned, so I'm referring to Dr. Shashi Jain. Sensation is primary cognitive experience. This definition is by Jalota. So sensation is a primary cognitive experience. It is a mental process. First of all, we need to understand sensation is a mental process, and mental processes are of different types. Can be cognitive, can be affective, can be cognitive, but this mental process, this sensation is a cognitive mental process, and it is a primary cognitive experience. Sensation is primary cognitive experience. Why primary? I hope you understand what is cognitive process, what is cognition. Cognitive process is any process through which we get information or knowledge of our environment. So it is a primary process which gives us all the knowledge around us. Okay, so for any knowledge to take place, sensation is the first step. Then it turns into perception. Okay, so it is primary cognitive process. This is by Jalota. Then second definition, sensation is first step of our knowledge. We've already discussed, no sensation, no knowledge. It is by Woodworth. There are many definitions, but as you know, in class also I dictate you these definitions. which are suitable for your use, which are easy to understand and interpret. So accordingly I have selected some for you. Then another is by Boudsin. The activation of sensory receptors and processing and transmission of these signals to higher centers in the brain is called sensation. So again, activation of sensory receptors are sensory receptors. What are the sensory receptors? Are sense organs, and processing and transmission of these signals. So there are some signals which are generated as due to the process of transduction. Processing of those signals takes place, and these signals are transferred to higher centers in the brain, to the brain, where there are different centers for different kind of sensations for interpretation, and this whole process is called sensation according to Boudsin. Then another definition: sensation is the process by which an organism responds to physical stimulation from the environment. So according to Feldman, sensation is the process by which an organism responds to physical stimulation from the environment. Whatever stimulation takes place from the environment through the sense organs, it is sensation is the process for that. And sensation is the process which makes an organism to respond as a result of stimulation from the environment. Until we get sensation and then perception, then we will not be able to respond to various stimuli around us in the environment. So for any response to take place, for any behavior to take place, so to speak, we need to have sensation. Then only perception takes place, and then only we respond to things around us. Okay. Then Rethus, the stimulation of sensory receptors and transmission of sensory information to the central nervous system is called sensation. Again, the same thing which we have been discussing. So Rethus has said, has defined sensation in terms of stimulation of sensory receptors. Sense organs or sensory receptors, one and the same thing. They are stimulated, and the transmission of sensory information through them takes place through the nerve impulse, through the sensory nerve, to the central nervous system, that is to the brain. It is called sensation. So these are some of the good definitions of sensation. So today we discussed about a process which is very basic for human behavior to take place. As we psychology is the study of human behavior and mental processes. So the first step to that behavior, or the basic mental process through which humans respond or behave, is sensation. No sensation, no perception, no response, no behavior. So the whole thing regarding psychology and human behavior revolves around the basic elementary process, which is called sensation. That is why this process is an important process. And how it takes place: some stimulus in the environment, it affects the sensory organ. Stimulus can be in the form of light, sound, or smell, taste, pressure, pain, temperature, etc. And accordingly, our different sense organs, 5 sense organs, they are capable of receiving those stimuli. And then in those sense organs, they have the capacity to generate a neural impulse through the process of transduction, and then this neural impulse is transmitted to brain through sensory nerves, and here the sensation is generated, and later on it is converted into perception. So this is how sensation takes place. So the next aspects of this topic we'll be covering in next video, and you have to put your attendance in the comment box, and in case of any query or question, you can again use the comment box. Okay, see you in another video.